The chrome-plated diplomatic shuttle hummed softly as it approached the massive Zoraki mothership. Nathan Reed adjusted his collar for the fifth time, trying to calm his nerves. As Earth's senior xenobiologist and hastily appointed diplomatic liaison, he carried the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. 2 minutes to docking, Dr. Reed, the pilot announced. Nathan nodded, reviewing his mental checklist. The Zoraki had appeared in Earth's orbit 3 weeks ago, their fleet of crystalline ships causing global panic until they transmitted their peaceful intentions. As the first advanced alien species humanity had encountered, everything about this meeting would set precedent. Remember, General Harlow had said during the briefing, the Zoraki are a matriarchal species. Their queen holds absolute authority. Show proper deference, but maintain human dignity. The shuttle shuddered as magnetic clamps secured it to the alien vessel. Nathan took a deep breath and stepped toward the airlock. The Zoraki atmosphere had been confirmed breathable, though slightly sweeter than Earth's air. As the doors slid open, Nathan found himself facing 2 towering Zoraki guards. Their iridescent exoskeletons shimmered under the ship's lights, compound eyes assessing him with unsettling intelligence. "Welcome, Emissary Reed," the taller guard spoke through a translation device. "Her Majesty awaits." Nathan followed them through corridors that seemed to be grown rather than built, organic curves blending with advanced technology. The hallways teemed with Zoraki workers, each with specialized adaptations for their roles. Some had enlarged manipulator limbs, others possessed enhanced sensory organs. All stopped to observe the human visitor. The throne room took Nathan's breath away. Vast windows revealed the curve of Earth below, while bioluminescent structures cast everything in a blue-green glow. Seated upon a living throne of crystalline material was Queen Talera. Unlike her subjects, the queen possessed an almost humanoid appearance, still insectoid, but with features that seemed deliberately engineered for aesthetic beauty. Her exoskeleton shimmered with opalescent patterns, and 4 slender arms were adorned with ceremonial markings. Most striking were her eyes, faceted like her species, but larger, more expressive, currently fixed intently on Nathan. Dr. Nathan Reed, her melodic voice required no translator, approach. Nathan stepped forward, performing the respectful bow they'd practiced. "Your Majesty, I bring greetings from Earth's united governance. We are honored by your presence and hopeful for peaceful relations between our species." Queen Talera's mandibles clicked softly, amusement, the briefing had suggested. "Well spoken, human. I have studied your kind extensively. Fascinating creatures, so adaptable, so unpredictable." She rose from her throne, easily 7 feet tall, and descended toward him. The court fell silent. "Our species shares something rare in this galaxy, independent evolutionary paths that have resulted in compatible biochemistry. A fortunate coincidence that allows us this direct meeting." Nathan nodded. "Our scientists were amazed by the similarities. It suggests certain universal principles in carbon-based life development." "Indeed." She circled him slowly. "Would you consent to a simple ceremonial greeting? It is customary when meeting potential allies." "Of course, Your Majesty." She extended one slender hand, a small crystalline device glinting on her palm. "Place your hand upon mine. The sensation may tingle slightly." Nathan hesitated only briefly before placing his palm against hers. The device warmed, and he felt a momentary sharp pain, like a needle prick. The queen's compound eyes widened fractionally. "Fascinating," she whispered, mandibles twitching with what seemed like excitement. Later, as Nathan returned to the shuttle with preliminary treaty terms, he noticed a small mark on his palm where the device had touched him. The mission was deemed a success. The Zoraki seemed genuinely interested in cultural exchange and trade agreements. Yet something about the Queen's intense focus on him specifically left Nathan unsettled. Back on Earth, he filed his report, unaware that Queen Talera was reviewing his genetic profile with growing excitement. The tests had confirmed what ancient Zoraki prophecies had predicted: that among the stars, the queens would one day find genetic matches of extraordinary compatibility. For the first time in thousands of years, a Zoraki queen had found a potential king. In her private chambers, Talara studied the humans' data again. Prepare a royal invitation, she instructed her advisors. Tell Earth we wish to deepen our cultural understanding, beginning with Dr. Reed. A personal invitation? Nathan stared at the holographic message floating above his desk. From Queen Talara herself? Ambassador Winters nodded, her expression serious. This is unprecedented, Nathan. The Zoraki have never invited a human to their homeworld. The diplomatic corps is concerned about the specificity of the request. Nathan ran his fingers through his dark hair, studying the elegant script. 3 months had passed since the initial contact, and trade negotiations had progressed smoothly via video conferences. But this, a royal transport dispatched specifically for him, felt different. What exactly does she want from me? He murmured. That's what we need you to find out, Winters replied. The Zoraki remained guarded about their social structures. This could be an extraordinary opportunity to deepen our understanding. 2 days later, Nathan boarded the crystalline Zoraki vessel. Unlike the utilitarian diplomatic shuttle, this ship hummed with biological technology. The walls pulsed with what appeared to be circulatory systems, while iridescent lighting adjusted to his comfort level. Commander Valix, a high-ranking female officer with elaborately decorated mandibles, served as his escort. The journey to Soraka Prime takes 7 cycles, she explained. Queen Talara has arranged quarters suited to your physiology. His quarters turned out to be a luxurious suite with Earth-imported furnishings and gravity calibrated precisely to match his home planet. Even the food synthesizers had been programmed with human cuisine. This seems excessive for a cultural exchange officer, Nathan observed. Valix's compound eyes glittered. The Queen finds your species fascinating. Particularly your adaptive capabilities. During the journey, Nathan studied Zoraki cultural materials while trying to ignore the strange looks from the crew. Some seemed curious, others almost reverent. On the 5th day, Valix invited him to observe a ritual ceremony in the ship's core chamber. The cavernous room hosted several dozen Zoraki arranged in concentric circles. At the center stood an elderly female with elaborate exoskeletal modifications. High Priestess Zendra, Valix whispered. She interprets the ancient prophecies. The ceremony proceeded in their clicking native language, untranslated, but Nathan noticed something troubling. His image appeared repeatedly in their holographic displays, alongside what appeared to be genetic sequencing data. When he confronted Valix afterward, she seemed flustered. The Genetrix prophecies are sacred matters. It would be inappropriate for me to explain further. As they approached Soraka Prime, the massive ringed planet dominated the viewscreen. 3 moons orbited in perfect synchronization, while the surface gleamed with bioluminescent megacities. Our agricultural zones are subterranean, Valix explained as they descended. The surface is primarily ceremonial and governmental. The royal landing platform extended like a living organism, unfurling to receive their ship. A delegation awaited them, high-ranking officials, scientists, and religious figures based on their adornments. The reception far exceeded standard diplomatic protocol. Nathan stepped onto Zoraki soil, immediately noting the enhanced gravity and richly oxygenated atmosphere. Before he could acclimate, the crowd parted, and Queen Talara approached. In her native environment, she was even more impressive. Bioluminescent patterns rippled across her exoskeleton, and she moved with fluid grace despite her imposing height. 4 royal attendants flanked her, carrying ornate objects Nathan couldn't identify. Nathan Reed, she greeted him, using his first name with familiar ease. Your journey was comfortable. Very, Your Majesty. I'm honored by your invitation, though still unclear about its purpose. Something like amusement flickered in her compound eyes. All will become clear. Tonight, you rest. Tomorrow, we begin the compatibility rituals. The what? Nathan asked, but the Queen had already turned, issuing rapid instructions to her attendants. An elegant Zoraki female with scientist markings approached him. I am Lysithea, royal geneticist. I'll be overseeing your acclimation and preparation. Preparation for what, exactly? Nathan pressed as they entered a hover transport. Lysithea hesitated. It is not my place to explain the Queen's intentions. But I can tell you that your genetic profile has caused quite a stir within our scientific community. You possess remarkable compatibility markers. His quarters in the royal palace were extravagant, a blend of earth comforts and Zoraki aesthetics. Through panoramic windows, he watched 3 moons rise over the alien landscape. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He accessed the cultural database, searching for compatibility rituals and genetrix prophecies. The results were restricted, but one unclassified historical text mentioned, when the stars align, the Queen shall seek her genetic complement among the star travelers. The chosen one shall face the 7 trials before ascending to consort status. Nathan froze, rereading the passage. Consort status? Surely that couldn't be what Talara intended. Yet the excessive hospitality, the genetic testing, the priestess's ceremony, it all suddenly made disturbing sense. Standing at the window, watching alien moons cast their light over an alien world, Nathan realized he might have been brought here for purposes far more personal, and far more consequential, than simple diplomacy. Tomorrow, he would demand answers. The 7 trials are sacred tradition, Queen Talara explained, her iridescent exoskeleton shimmering under the council chamber's bioluminescent light. Any potential royal consort must prove their worthiness. Nathan stood before the assembled Zoraki High Council, trying to maintain diplomatic composure despite his shock. Your Majesty, while I'm deeply honored, there seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding. I was sent here as a diplomatic representative, not a candidate for royal partnership. The council chamber buzzed with clicking mandibles, the Zoraki equivalent of murmuring. Talara silenced them with a graceful gesture of her upper limbs. The genetic compatibility between us is unprecedented, she said. Our scientists have confirmed it, and the genetrix prophecies foretold this moment. The universe itself has selected you, Nathan Reed. High Priestess Zendra stepped forward, her ancient exoskeleton bearing countless ceremonial etchings. For millennia, our queens have sought compatible genetic matches to strengthen our species. The prophecies speak of one who comes from beyond the void, carrying complementary genetic markers that will usher in a new evolutionary era. Nathan felt trapped. Refusing outright could jeopardize the fragile alliance between their species, but agreeing seemed equally impossible. On Earth, we typically get to know one another before making such commitments. Talara's compound eyes studied him with unnerving intensity. The trials serve that purpose. They reveal character, adaptability, intelligence, qualities any queen must assess in a potential consort. And if I refuse? You are free to return to Earth, Talara said smoothly. Though our scientists believe the remarkable genetic compatibility might be destabilizing if left unexplored. Certain biochemical processes have already been initiated by our first contact. Nathan noticed several council members exchange meaningful glances. He suspected there was more at stake than personal compatibility. What exactly do these trials entail? Lysithea, the royal geneticist, projected a holographic display. 7 challenges, each testing different aspects. The trial of intellect, the trial of adaptation, the trial of strength, the trial of perception, the trial of leadership, the trial of courage, and finally, the trial of loyalty. They're designed to be survivable, Talara added, noting his concern. Mostly survivable, muttered a grizzled military officer to Nathan's right. The council chamber doors burst open before Nathan could respond. A towering Zoraki male entered, his exoskeleton bearing elaborate military insignia. This is absurd, he thundered. A human as royal consort. Supreme Commander Krovax should be the Queen's chosen mate. Silence, Dravix. Talara's voice carried unexpected authority. Your brother may challenge as tradition allows, but the prophecies and genetics cannot be denied. Nathan pieced together the political dynamics. Krovax, apparently the military leader, had expected to become the Queen's consort. His brother Dravix wasn't taking the human interference well. If I participate, Nathan said carefully, what guarantees do I have regarding Earth-Zoraki relations? Talara's mandibles clicked softly. Should you complete the trials successfully, our species would enter a formal alliance. Trade routes, technological exchange, mutual defense, all would be guaranteed by royal decree. 2 days later, Nathan found himself in an enormous arena filled with thousands of Zoraki spectators. The first trial, Intellect, consisted of solving complex multidimensional puzzles while competitors attempted to sabotage each other's efforts. Nathan recognized it wasn't just about intelligence but game theory and strategic thinking. To everyone's surprise, especially Supreme Commander Krovax's, Nathan excelled. His human approach to problem-solving proved unpredictable and effective. When he completed the final puzzle, the crowd erupted in a cacophony of clicking appreciation. The trial of adaptation came next. Contestants were subjected to rapidly changing environmental conditions requiring physiological and psychological adjustment. While the Zoraki contestants had evolved biological advantages, Nathan's scientific background helped him improvise solutions using available materials. The human demonstrates remarkable creativity, Lysithea commented to the Queen as Nathan fashioned a cooling system from components in the challenge chamber. The third trial tested strength, not just physical power, but endurance. Nathan couldn't match the Zoraki physically, but strategically conserved his energy while others exhausted themselves with displays of brute force. By the fourth day, only 3 competitors remained, Nathan, Supreme Commander Krovax, and a female Zoraki scientist named Talia. The trial of perception required navigating an illusion labyrinth while identifying concealed threats. Halfway through, Nathan discovered Krovax tampering with his environmental suit. Rather than confronting him directly, Nathan documented the sabotage and continued, barely finishing despite oxygen deprivation. Krovax has violated the sacred rules, Zendra announced when Nathan presented his evidence. He is disqualified. The military commander's rage was palpable. This human makes a mockery of our traditions. My followers will not accept this perversion of our genetic legacy. As guards escorted Krovax from the arena, he locked eyes with Nathan. This isn't over, Earthling. The Queen may be blinded by prophecies and genetic markers, but many Zoraki would rather die than see our royal lineage contaminated. That night, exhausted and recovering, Nathan received an unexpected visitor, Queen Talara herself, without her usual entourage. You've surprised everyone, she said, her normally formal demeanor softened. Including me. I still don't fully understand why I was chosen, Nathan admitted. Talara's bioluminescent patterns shifted to softer hues. Genetic compatibility is merely the beginning. Your adaptability, your different perspective, these qualities our civilization needs. Our species has reached an evolutionary plateau. Without new genetic material, we face stagnation. For the first time, Nathan saw vulnerability in her alien features. Behind the Queen's formal exterior was a leader bearing the weight of her species' future, and now, possibly his own. 3 more trials remained, each more challenging than the last. The trial of leadership placed Nathan in command of a mixed squadron of humans and Zoraki during a simulated crisis. Earth had sent a small delegation to observe the proceedings, growing increasingly concerned about their xenobiologist's unexpected role in alien succession politics. This situation has escalated beyond diplomatic parameters, Colonel Reeves whispered as they watched Nathan coordinate a complex rescue operation. We should extract you immediately. Nathan shook his head. If I leave now, we lose everything. Krovax's faction would seize power and potentially turn the Zoraki against Earth. We need this alliance. What he didn't say was how his perspective had shifted. Each day spent on Soraka Prime revealed more about their civilization, their art, philosophy, scientific achievements. And each private conversation with Talara showed dimensions to the Queen that fascinated him. Behind her regal exterior was a visionary leader, brilliant scientist, and unexpectedly wry sense of humor. The trial of courage came next, a dangerous expedition into the toxic caverns beneath the royal city, seeking a rare crystal necessary for the final trial. Nathan and Talia, the remaining Zoraki competitor, were forced to collaborate despite being rivals. "Why do you continue?" Talia asked as they navigated phosphorescent tunnels filled with caustic gases. "You cannot truly wish to be consort to an alien queen." "I'm ensuring peace between our species," Nathan replied, adjusting his breathing apparatus. Talia's mandibles clicked skeptically. "The Queen watches you differently than she watches other males. And you watch her similarly. Perhaps your motivations have evolved." Before Nathan could respond, the tunnel floor collapsed beneath them. As they plummeted into darkness, Nathan's quick thinking saved them both. Using specialized equipment, he created an improvised lift system that utilized the cavern's natural thermal vents. "Perhaps humans do think differently," Talia conceded as they finally located the crystal formation. "This adaptability could benefit our species." They emerged victorious but found the palace in chaos. Krovax had launched a military coup, claiming the trials had been manipulated to favor the human. Several council members had been taken hostage, and the royal guards were engaged in skirmishes throughout the capital. "The Queen has been moved to the secure bunker," Lysithea informed them, her exoskeleton bearing battle damage. "Krovax controls the orbital defense systems. Your Earth delegation is trapped in the diplomatic quarter." Nathan formulated a plan immediately. "Talia, you know the security protocols better than I do. Can you get us into the communications hub?" She hesitated only briefly. "Yes. But this conflict is internal Zoraki politics. Why involve yourself further?" "Because Krovax won't stop with controlling Soraka. His faction has always opposed peaceful contact with Earth. If he wins, both our species lose." Together, they infiltrated the communications center. While Talia engaged the guards, Nathan transmitted evidence of Krovax's earlier sabotage to all military units, along with a message from Lysithea confirming the genetic compatibility findings. In Zoraki culture, manipulating sacred trials was an unforgivable offense. Support for the coup fractured. By nightfall, loyal forces had regained control of the capital, though Krovax himself escaped with his core followers. When Nathan finally reached the royal bunker, he found Talara coordinating the defense effort. For a moment, seeing him alive, her royal composure slipped, her bioluminescent patterns flared with unmistakable emotion. "You risked everything," she said privately later. "Why?" "The same reason you're conducting these trials despite the political risk," Nathan replied. "Because some possibilities are worth fighting for." The Royal Council convened in emergency session the next morning. With Krovax's faction in retreat but still dangerous, they debated postponing the final trial. "Impossible," High Priestess Zendra declared. "The astronomical alignment occurs tomorrow. The trial of loyalty must proceed as prophecy dictates." Nathan learned this final challenge would test not physical or mental capabilities, but something far more profound. Each participant would be connected to the ancient hive-mind crystal, a psychically resonant organism that would reveal their deepest loyalties and intentions to the Queen and Council. "No deception is possible within the crystal's influence," Lysithea explained. "Your true motivations regarding our species will be revealed." That night, Nathan received an encrypted message from Earth Command, "Diplomatic situation critical. Extract immediately. Alliance secondary to human security." His orders were clear. Earth wasn't ready to risk its representative becoming permanently entangled in alien politics. They wanted him to abandon the trials and return home. As dawn broke over the crystalline spires of the capital, Nathan made his decision. The final trial would reveal not just his loyalty to Earth or to Talora personally, but to the greater principle he'd come to believe in, that their species were stronger together than apart. Krovax remained at large, his followers infiltrating key positions. Intelligence suggested he planned a final desperate attack during the ceremony itself. Nathan knew completing the trial had become about more than prophecies or personal feelings, it represented the path to peace between worlds that had only just discovered each other. As he prepared for the ceremony, Nathan reflected on how dramatically his mission had transformed. He'd arrived as a diplomat and scientist. Now he stood at the crossroads of two civilizations, his choices potentially shaping the future of both species. And somewhere along the way, in defiance of all probability and biology, he'd formed a connection with Talora that transcended simple diplomacy. The question remained whether the hive-mind crystal would judge that connection worthy, and whether both their worlds were ready for what it represented. The Grand Temple of Ancestral Unity stood atop the highest crystal spire in the capital. Built millennia ago from living crystal, it housed the sacred hive-mind remnant, the last fragment of the ancient consciousness that had guided Zoraki evolution. Nathan stood before the massive doors, dressed in ceremonial attire that blended human and Zoraki design elements. The remaining council members, loyal military commanders, Earth diplomats, and thousands of citizens had gathered to witness the final trial. Krovax's forces have been detected approaching the outer atmosphere, General Thexus reported. Our defenses are prepared, but his flagship carries experimental weapons technology. Talora, resplendent in royal regalia, addressed the assembled crowd. For generations, our species has evolved in isolation. The Genetrix prophecies foretold this moment, when new genetic pathways would prevent stagnation and extinction. Today, we determine if those prophecies will be fulfilled. The massive temple doors parted, revealing the inner sanctum. At its center floated the hive-mind crystal, a pulsating, opalescent mass that seemed to exist partially in another dimension. Ancient glyphs covered the surrounding walls, recording every royal succession for thousands of years. High Priestess Zendra approached Nathan. The crystal will connect directly with your consciousness. It will evaluate not just your surface thoughts, but the deepest layers of your being, your true loyalties, fears, and desires. Are you prepared? Nathan nodded, though no human could truly be prepared for alien psychic communion. As Earth's representative, Colonel Reeves stepped forward with a final objection. This procedure hasn't been evaluated for human neural compatibility. The risks are mine to accept, Nathan interrupted. I've reviewed the neurological data with Lysithea. It's survivable. Survivable isn't reassuring, Reeves muttered. As Nathan approached the crystal, alarm sirens blared throughout the city. Krovax had launched his attack. Explosions illuminated the skyline as defense systems engaged the rebel ships. We must proceed immediately, Zendra urged. Nathan placed his hands on the crystal's surface. The sensation began subtly, a tingling at his fingertips, then a pressure behind his eyes. Suddenly, his consciousness expanded beyond his body, connecting with the ancient intelligence within the crystal. Images flooded his mind, Earth's oceans and forests, the first Zoraki queens emerging from their evolutionary crucible, human achievements and failures, Zoraki art and science, war and peace across two worlds. The crystal wasn't just reading him, it was comparing the complete histories of both species. Through this expanded awareness, Nathan sensed Krovax's ships breaching the defensive perimeter. One vessel, piloted by Krovax himself, was on a direct collision course with the temple. Nathan's connection to the crystal deepened. He perceived Talora's consciousness joining his within the crystalline network, her thoughts intertwining with his own. Together, they accessed the ancient defense systems integrated within the temple's structure. Outside, witnesses observed a phenomenon unprecedented in Zoraki history. the temple crystal began resonating with satellites orbiting both Soraka Prime and, astonishingly, Earth. A lattice of energy formed between the worlds, visible even across interstellar distances. Krovax's ship, moments from impact, was enveloped in crystalline energy and held immobile. Throughout the city, rebel forces found their weapons inoperable, their ships locked in stasis fields. Within the crystal consciousness, Nathan and Talara perceived a truth hidden for generations. The Zoraki and humans shared a common ancestral source, seated across different worlds by the same ancient civilization. The compatibility wasn't coincidence but cosmic design, meant to eventually reunite two evolutionary branches. When Nathan finally withdrew from the crystal, hours had passed. The temple was secured, Krovax's forces neutralized. But the greater transformation had occurred within the connected consciousness of both species. The trial of loyalty is complete, Zendra announced. The crystal has judged the human worthy. In the days that followed, a new treaty emerged, not merely of alliance but of progressive integration. Scientific exchange, cultural programs, even limited migration between worlds would begin. The genetic compatibility between species would be studied openly, with voluntary participants from both planets. 1 month later, in a ceremony combining traditions from both worlds, Nathan and Talara formalized their unprecedented union. It wasn't merely a personal commitment but a symbolic joining of species with common origins and now, a common future. "This isn't how I expected my diplomatic mission to end," Nathan remarked as they overlooked the capital's nighttime bioluminescent display. Talara's mandibles clicked with amusement. Prophecies rarely unfold as expected. The ancient texts predicted a genetic complement from the stars, they never specified that he would be so stubborn. "Adaptability," Nathan corrected with a smile. "Your scientists confirmed it's my best genetic trait." Their personal relationship remained as complex as the interspecies politics they now navigated. Physical differences presented challenges, cultural misunderstandings arose regularly, and both Earth and Soraka contained conservative factions resistant to change. Yet they discovered unexpected harmonies. Nathan's scientific background complemented Talara's innovative governance. Her evolutionary perspective balanced his human impatience. Together, they established research outposts on unclaimed worlds, implemented groundbreaking educational exchanges, and navigated the inevitable conflicts with wisdom drawn from both traditions. The crystal interface, modified for safer communication, allowed regular connection between human and Zoraki consciousness, accelerating understanding and cooperation beyond what traditional diplomacy could achieve. 7 years after Nathan's arrival on Soraka Prime, the first generation of hybrid embryos became viable, created through advanced genetic engineering rather than conventional reproduction. These children would literally embody the bridge between worlds, carrying the strengths of both evolutionary paths. As Nathan watched Earth rise over Soraka's crystalline horizon, he reflected on the improbable journey. He had arrived as a diplomatic placeholder and reluctant genetic curiosity. He remained as something previously unimaginable, a human who had found connection across the stars, helping forge a path that neither species could have walked alone. "The ancient texts contained one prophecy we haven't shared publicly," Talara said, joining him at the observation window. "It speaks of children of two worlds who will eventually guide both parent species to a greater destiny among the stars." Nathan took her multi-jointed hand in his. "Then we'd better make sure we give them worlds worth inheriting." High above, the crystalline network connecting Earth and Soraka pulsed with new data exchanges, while research vessels from both planets ventured outward together, seeking other branches of their shared cosmic family tree.